Okay. Hello people, welcome back to the People Building Podcast. It is a pleasure to be sharing this sunny day with you today. I don't know if it's sunny where you are right now, but it's sunny where I am right now, so hence it being a sunny welcome to you. My behaviour and communications on this podcast are not an accurate reflection of how I interact in my other businesses. Basically, I don't ever swear at children. If this podcast causes you distress of any kind, either by what I say or who I am, then do yourself a favour and go away. Today, I'm going to tell you about why I hate goals. This is the Not NLP podcast, so I can get away with saying stuff like this. If you were on my practitioner training a couple of weeks ago, you may now be scratching your head wondering what the hell I've just taught you. But I am going to tell you why I hate goals. Listen, there's a lot of stuff that I teach in NLP that I love on the one hand, and on the other hand, you know, having used this stuff for a while, I can see what the flaws are and how you need to use it in the right way for it to have the best possible result. Maybe I need a parts integration, who knows? All right, so let's talk about goals today. My biggest issue with goals is that there's no F in smart. There's no F in smart, not there's no effing smart. There's no F in smart. Right. Here's what I mean by that. So if you know anything about goal setting, then you will have come across the SMART criteria. Let me run through the SMART criteria for you if you do not know it already. So we have S being for simple and specific. So your goal needs to be simple, like stated in simple terms, straightforward, but it also needs to be like specific. It can't be fluffy, like big abstract things. We want to get down into the details here. Then we have M, which is for measurable and meaningful. So you need to be able to measure the fact that you're starting in one place and finishing in another. There should be a conceivable difference between where you are now and where you're going to end up. M is measurable and meaningful. Meaningful means, is it meaningful to you? A is for achievable and act as if. So by achievable, we mean, is it within your scope of skills that you currently have? Like, is it something that is achievable for you to do? And by acting as if, it's, can you pretend like you've already got it? Can you feel the emotions that you would be feeling if you'd achieved this thing already? Because very often when you get yourself into the right emotional state, it kind of helps you with the motivation to move you in the right direction towards achieving it. Then we have R for realistic and responsible. So by realistic, we mean that within the boundaries of the world, the universe, whatever it is that you're doing, where you're doing it, is it something that is reasonable for you to be able to do? So if you have a goal to be able to do something that has an age limit, are you within that age limit, for example? Responsible is all about taking full responsibility for the goal that you have. And then T is for timed and towards. So can we state a specific time by which you will have achieved this goal, which makes it much more focused for your brain to work in that direction and to eventually get there? And by towards, we're talking about stating it in the positive. So SMART. There's no F in smart. What's the F for? Flexible. There needs to be an F in there because listen, in my experience, my own personal experience of goal setting, which I've done many times before, what I've discovered as a very valuable quality is that you need to be really super flexible about achieving your goal, because the chances are ain't gonna show up in the way that you was expecting it to. I'm going to come back to that point. Let me tell you about another issue that I've got with goals. The other problem I have with goals is that they cause you to kind of put your mindset into the future rather than in the moment. I don't know if that bit there that I just did is going to translate well, because you see, here's the thing. Side note, when I'm NLP training, I have to make this the past and this the future if this was time in front of me, this is the past, this is the future, because the audience, like for them, is the other way around, because they're sitting in front of me. For me, in reality, this is the past and this is the future.
Side note, I appreciate this entire section is really useless to you if you are listening on iTunes instead of watching in YouTube. Sorry about that.
But now I've just got so used to saying that this is the past, this is the future, my timeline's really buggered up. I don't know what that looks like on camera. I may have just pointed to what is your future when I was talking about the past. Do you understand what I'm saying? Anyway, the point being that when we set goals, they cause us to put our mindset into the future instead of living in the moment. And that's a little bit sad because we're only here for a short period of time. And if we're going to spend most of it like daydreaming about the future, then actually we might end up missing out on some of the good stuff that's going on in life right now. And it can cause a shit ton of anxiety to do that. If you're not in the moment, like living in the right here, right now, that can cause you to get really anxious, and then you have to start doing mindfulness exercises to get you grounded again. So aside from it causing us to sort of live in an illusion that doesn't exist and probably won't exist in the way that you're imagining it anyway, my other issue with goals is that they cause us to become uncomfortable with failure. Like, I don't know what it is, just the word goal, it's like a win, you know? So you're aiming for this win and then you don't get it, or you don't get it in the way that you're expecting. Now you haven't won, and that implies that you should be feeling shitty. Well, actually the truth is that sometimes, in fact not sometimes, very often, the biggest things we learn come from us failing. You ever learn anything meaningful from doing really well at something and it being easy and straightforward? That doesn't happen. That's not where the learning is. The learning's in the failure. But for some reason, maybe it's just because it's called a goal, if we fail at a goal, we feel like we've failed at life. You know, it can be really devastating. But the truth is that there can be so much good experience to come out of that failure. Maybe the good experience that comes out of that failure is to tell us that's a goal we should never have been working on in the first place anyway. So I think like we can end up taking goals like way too seriously, and that may become detrimental to what, you know, to us actually enjoying our lives and moving forward into our future in a positive and meaningful way. And another thing about goals is that it sort of doesn't take into consideration the fact that life just happens. Life does just happen. Shit just shows up that is outside of your control. Now, I know you're an NLP maybe, you're going, yes, well I can control my thinking. Well, good for you. But the point is that whilst we can be in control of our thinking, sometimes shit happens that throws us sideways. So for example, I had a goal years and years and years ago of setting up an NLP training business. Good for me. I had all my NLP skills so that I could set my goal according to the SMART criteria. And I did this, and then there was a recession. Now, could I control that? Not really. Could I control my thinking about it? Yes. Could I think positively about it? Yes. Did it help me to achieve my goal? No. The fact that there was a recession really put me back quite a bit in terms of my longer term plans. And likewise, the day when the EU referendum came out, as the fact that we were going to leave the EU, that kind of threw some shit my direction as well from a business perspective. We lost a couple of good sales that day. So sometimes stuff just happens that you cannot anticipate and you don't have any influence over. So no matter how smart your goal is, it might not take into consideration the fact that life might show up and sabotage it in some way. This is why we need an F in the SMART criteria. My final reason for disliking goals is because having a goal can sometimes, now this is not for all of you, all right, there are some people that I've met, don't get me wrong, many people really that I've met who have no direction in life, and a goal is really helpful for them to get them to find the right way forward. However, some of you are goal junkies. aren't you? You got like 20 different goals on the go. You finish one, another goal rocks up. You start working towards it using your little SMART criteria. I know who you are. I've got your number. Anyway, the point being that sometimes when we have goal after goal after goal after goal, it implies that what you have already got is not enough. Now imagine living in a state of feeling like you haven't got enough in the present. That's not going to make you feel too comfortable about being in the present, which is a very helpful place for us to be. So what I want to be able to do is to just use goals in a way that is beneficial for the one-time events in life where we might need them, but not to become complete junkies whereby we are addicted to them and making goal after goal after goal after goal and then beating ourselves up because we weren't able to achieve them in the way that we thought that we would do. In my own personal opinion, I scrapped the SMART criteria quite some time ago. This may come as a surprise to you. What happens for me now is that I have ideas and I have direction and I have plans, and there are things I think about inside my head that, you know, might be good for the future, but even still I have to be very conscious not to live my life in my ideas for the future. I still have to kind of go, come back Bailey, get back in the chair, sitting at the table, talking to the camera. I think having an idea about where you want to go in life is a good thing. I think having a direction is a good thing. But what I want to really enforce upon you today is that mindset of flexibility. Knowing that the ideas and dreams and directions that you have might not go completely in the way that you were expecting them to go, and that that's okay. Here's a good way to assess whether or not your investment in goals is maybe a little bit higher than is healthy. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to imagine that today, I'm sorry to tell you, is the end of your days. Today you will die. You won't. That was a joke. I just want you to imagine that today, like if today was the end of your days, and you look back on your life, all right? So you're going to reflect on all of the life that you've had up until today. If I gave you the option of not coming back or coming back but having to do the exact same life all over again with all the bad bits and all the good bits, all the bad bits as well, would you do it? Would it be worth it to you? You can't change anything. You can't do anything any differently. You've got to come back and live it exactly as it was. Would you do that? Now, this is a really interesting thing to consider, because if your feeling is, yeah, of course I would come back, then that tells me that you're someone who spent most of your life being in your life, enjoying your life day to day, good bits, bad bits, whatever. Overall, you know, it's been worthwhile. But if you're someone who would look back on that experience of life that you've had so far and think, hell no, there is no way I'm going back to that, even for the good bits, okay, even for the good bits, it is not worthwhile. I would not want to do a full-on repeat of all of that shit. If you feel that way, then maybe it's because you, during that period of life that you're experiencing, you weren't really in it, experiencing it. If most of the time your head was off somewhere else, being anxious, thinking about all the things that you should have been doing instead, thinking about the future and things that you still needed to achieve, then it makes sense that you would end up feeling a little bit overwhelmed and maybe not enjoying the moments in life that life had to offer you during the time that you were there. In summary, let me say this. Goal setting can work, but you don't need to do maybe quite as much of it as you had been doing. Actually, just have a nice time whilst you're here, going on, living your life into the future, day to day, having a nice time, connecting with people, feeling good, enjoying what you've got, being satisfied, feeling grateful, all of those good things. And if you happen to have a good idea about something that you might want to one day do in the future, then enjoy the process each day of working your way in that direction, so that it's not just about the end result of getting there, but all of the joy that you can experience whilst you're on the journey. Yep, I just said the journey. The journey. Anyway, that's all from me. It was lovely to talk to you today. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, then make sure you go ahead and do so by clicking the red subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribing via your podcast feed, whichever one you happen to be using. Leave me a comment about how useful or informative you may have found today's particular podcast, and give me a thumbs up on YouTube, 5 stars on iTunes, and that's it. I will see you guys in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.